Another week here inside the Bears Den, and we're glad to have you with us. A.A. Moore, head coach Sam Shade, and had an outstanding week in Atlanta. It was a very nice day, beautiful day outside weather-wise. A lot of festivities going on with Clark Atlanta's homecoming, but more than that, big ball game on the line against the Panthers.
Absolutely. Atlanta, it was a great atmosphere for our players. I like going into venues when it's packed and, festive, and I think our guys really kind of get up for games like that.
And with so much on the line as the season starts to move along, Coach, your team is hot. Clark Atlanta is probably the hot team in black college football coming into this ball game because of the big turnaround that was produced by head coach Teddy Keaton and his staff.
Yes, Coach Keaton, man, really good football coach. He and his staff have done a great job with that program at Clark because, they've been down for so long and, they get there and they get off to a great start, had some big wins, obviously first win of the season against Fort Valley and beating Bethune and, just really good stuff, not just for them but for our conference, for the SIAC. I think it was great attention for our conference also.
And so with all that was on the line, Miles and Clark Atlanta get at it. The Panthers had not beaten Miles in the previous 7 iterations of this rivalry. And, man, I tell you, your team came out ready to play and came out with a big 49-28 victory.
Well, we jumped out on them, but they did fight back, especially in that second half. They really – They never stopped playing. They never stopped competing, and I got a lot of respect for those guys because of that.
Well, we'll start to break down this ball game and discuss what it means for Miles going forward when we come back. You're watching Inside the Bears Den with Coach Sam Shade. Back here inside the Bears Den, A.A. Moore, Coach Sam Shade, and Coach, before we start talking about the game, I've talked about it, I've teased about it a little bit. Man, Clark Atlanta, you get in there and you've got that outrageous, audacious red turf. Did that do anything? What did that do? Because it just would seem like, most teams don't play on that, and I may even use that as an advantage.
Well, I've coached on a purple field when I was an assistant coach at another university, but never on a red field. And I thought that purple field was something, but that red, it really, really shines, and it's tough to get used to at first when you first see it. And I think our players, we tried to get them out there early on the turf and let them run around, get used to it, and they did a good job of it.
Well, start of that ball game, you've got a team in Clark Atlanta. Everyone knows the quarterback, David Wright. He's the reigning offensive player of the year, preseason offensive player of the year. They like to throw the football, and we talked about it last week where you had to go against him and Coach Keaton when they were at Allen back in 2023, and he put on a show and almost caused us some real problems on the scoreboard.
Right. David Wright, man, he's a terrific talent at that quarterback position. And like you said, last year when he came in here, he gave us everything we could handle, and they really just ran out of time. I felt like last season they could have went back and forth, but he'd been having an excellent year, and did some really good things in our ball game. They threw for a lot of yards, and he threw some touchdowns on us, so he still got his. As some people would say, he still got his. But I feel like in all 3 phases, we made plays. We scored in all 3 phases. We scored on offense. We scored on defense with an interception return for a touchdown, and we also scored on special teams with the block punt that we recovered and got in the end zone. It was blocked by John Robinson and recovered by Tipton Dobbs. So, when you have games like that, you can overcome, a lot. And like I said, he's a very good player, and we really didn't limit him much at all. He pretty much did what he does in most games. We just made plays in some other areas.
So on that first drive, Clark Atlanta gets the ball first, and they're coming down the field. And what you see from teams a lot of times, especially when you're going against a team that can kind of get to the quarterback like Miles can, quarterbacks want to get rid of the football. And it looks like that's what David Wright was doing on that first drive. Let's get rid of the football, and your team didn't adjust right away.
I thought it was a great plan by them. I thought, I knew they probably scripted their first 10 to 12 plays, and you could tell everything we did they had an answer for. They were patient when they went down the field, but he did get the ball out quick. A lot of sideways offense, which some people feel like when you throw the ball out there to your receivers right now, it's like you're substituting for a run play because you get in their hands, and those are guys that can make things happen and running after the catch. And that's what they did during that first drive. They were real patient and just did a great job executing and going down the field on us.
So they get in the end zone. It's 7-0, and the fans there at Clark Atlanta, like I said, it's homecoming, and they're feeling it. So now you really got that element starting to come in the offense. You got Khalil Anglin again at quarterback. There's no Gennaro Scott, so you're making some changes or using some guys who aren't the top guys, but they played already, still not getting the success in the first couple of drives. What was happening out there, what Clark Atlanta was doing defensively?
Well, L.C. Cole, he's the defense coordinator over there, and, he did things against us last year at Allen that, gave us some issues and some problems. And, so he's always going to have a really good plan, and we feel like it took us a little bit of time to kind of, just get a feel for some of the things they were going to do with their personnel up front. As far as on the defensive line, they had a couple guys up there that gave us some movement, that gave us some issues and things like that early. But, we settled down and we were able to get things going after that first series.
And we've talked about special teams. It hasn't always been great, but, man, this game, the special teams really, really stood out. You were playing field position. The punter, Roderick Scott. You got a couple of Rodericks on the team.
A couple of them.
Right. So Roderick Scott did a good job. He pins Clark Atlanta back. The defense gets to stop, and then it's the punt block. Talk about what the call was there and why it was successful.
Well, they run a little different punt scheme than a lot of people do in college football. They actually run what we call a pro punt scheme that professional teams run. And in that scheme, a lot of times that snapper has to block. And in a lot of college schemes, he doesn't. And, we just felt like there were some things we could take advantage of because of, what they were doing. And on that play, John Robinson, it was just great effort by him, getting off the ball fast and basically beating the guy that was going to try to block him. And he gets there, and just like he's coached to do it, he takes it right off his foot. He doesn't get there and go haywire with his hands. Takes it right off his foot, and ball pops up, and Tifton Dobbs, 6'5" receiver, jumps up there and pulls it down, and he's got a early Christmas present. So.
And we don't get to talk about those guys a lot because a lot of times when special teams you are talking about it, it's not things that they're doing well, but maybe something that they missed. But this time, again, your guys, the John Robinsons, the Tifton Dobbs, able to execute, and it really started to turn the tide of this ball game.
Well, we felt like it did. We really did. And we talk every week about those guys on special teams having to be special. If we're going to win ball games, we got to be special in those phases. We got to make something happen, whether it's a block punt, whether it's a big return. And even at the end of the game, you go to in the fourth quarter, for instance, they went with their onside kick team, and we put our hands team out there. And obviously we've got some of our better players with good hands on that special teams unit. And Jay Andrews, 2 times in a row, he does a great job of executing, catching that onside kick and getting down and getting the ball back for us, because a lot of people – I've seen people get back in ball games with the onside kick, and I thought that phase we executed that to perfection each time.
So it's 7-7, but Clark Atlanta, they still got juice. They come right back down the field again, and again – They were throwing the football, and David Wright did a good job, but they were able to execute a couple of runs, maybe some trap-type plays, right. Something where there were some big holes right through the middle of that defense, and they get right back down the field again. Is that just play design on their part, or did we miss something?
Well, I mean, there was some cat and mouse, some chess being played on their part. They did a really good job with some things, but then there were some things on our end where we had some guys not in the gaps they were supposed to be in, and we missed a couple tackles, which was kind of uncharacteristic of how we've been since the bye week, where we've really, I felt like, tackled well since the bye, and so. We got to clean some things up, and we talked about it this morning. Our defense, we got to clean some things up. We got to, get back to basics with the tackling, get back to guys doing their job of being where they're supposed to be, because we felt like we had some guys kind of doing their own thing, at times in that ball game, and we'll fix that.
So Clark Atlanta gets more than 150 yards on their first couple of drives, and the Panthers looked like they were about to go in the end zone and take the lead, but in steps LaShawn Young. He comes in, gets the great pick there, gets a return, starts to turn the field a little bit. It's his 4th interception of the season. He leads the SIAC in interceptions, and he had a monster game too. It was only 4 tackles, but talk about those interceptions. Talk about him just being around the football.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because actually he had another interception, but, it was taken away because we had a late hit on the quarterback by Keith Green, one of our young guys. One thing about Keith Green, you don't have to get him to go hard or go fast. He's going to automatically do that, and, sometimes we got to pull back a little bit. And, it was just a play. He's playing hard, but that took away another interception that LaShawn had. He also had a forced fumble, LaShawn did, and like you said, he's flying around. He's around the ball a lot, and I like that about him. And but I get on him a lot, especially when you played the same position that the head coach played and the defensive coordinator played. I'm like, well, look, you're around the ball, you did this, you did that, but you missed a couple tackles. Let's make those tackles. So all of our guys know that they've got a lot of room to improve, and we're always chasing perfection and always chasing our best game, and we know we'll never get there, but if you chase it, you can take your game pretty high.
So that kind of squelched another scoring chance for Clark Atlanta, and now your guys are starting to get in a bit of a rhythm. Anglin is, while certainly not throwing the deep ball, but he's making the passes, making the plays, not turning it over, and now that offensive line is starting to churn, and you're starting to see the run game come along. Did you think that Clark was just having the success they were having early because the offensive line wasn't executing, or did it's just one of those things where it just took a little time to get it moving?
Well, a little bit of both. Thought we weren't, executing quite right early on, and I thought they gave us some things that, we had to go talk about on the sideline. Well, look, they're doing this with the nose, or they're doing this with this stand-up back, or things like that, and so after a while, it kind of gets down to, okay, we know they're going to do this if we do that. So now, can this receiver beat this cornerback, or we're going to run this play. Can our puller block this guy? And can our running back make this guy miss? So it starts to boil down to the matchups at some point.
And let's talk a bit about Anglin again. Not the biggest numbers passing. He was 12 of 20,
right,
just over 120 yards passing. But he made some plays with his legs, kept us out of some behind-the-chains type situations, and
right,
ended up ultimately leading to the drive that set up the touchdown that put us ahead right before halftime.
Well, I know he didn't throw a lot of passes, but 12 of 20, he's still sitting there at 60%, which that's not a bad percentage. I mean, he's still above 50%. So, if he does that, I mean, we'll take that. We're always working to improve it. But like you said, he did a good job with his legs. Of when it wasn't there, he took what the defense gave him. We felt like he did a good job of doing that and not trying to force some things. And that was evident by the fact that we had 2 interceptions and they didn't have any. Matter of fact, we had 4 calls turnovers, and we didn't give it up any. And that's something we stress, is the turnovers is winning the turnover battle, and we've done that the past couple games, and that wins you a lot of games, when our guys are taking care of the football.
And how do you feel about his development? Now, this is 2 games in a row where he's had to step in and start and lead this team. And in fact, he came in the game before that, so he's played 3 games in a row. How have you seen his progression as a quarterback, as the leader of this offense during that time?
Well, I've been very pleased with Khalil, and I feel like the coaching staff, and I've talked about the coaching staff with the players. I feel like our coaching staff, they do a really good job of putting our guys in position to have success, and they do a good job of developing our guys. I think our quarterback coach, Ken Nevins, and our offensive coordinator, Coach Alexander, I think, they've done a really good job with Khalil, especially considering the circumstances of, him having to go into the game, that Central State game, that second half, and getting him ready for a big ball game against Albany State, and then another big game over at Clark Atlanta. Sometimes the stage can get a little bit too big for some young guys, but for Khalil, I feel like those coaches have really helped slow the game down for him and put him in position to be successful.
Well, you get one more touchdown. Like I said, it's 14-7 at halftime. The offense is doing enough. Your special teams has gotten you into the end zone, and your defense has made the plays to kind of stifle the Clark onslaught, because they can score a lot of points. As you're heading into halftime, where do you see what your team is doing and your prospects for being able to come out of here with a W?
Well, we kind of pride ourselves, especially offensively, on coming out in the second half when we're getting the football. We feel like we've gotten lathered up from the first half, so now we kind of got the blood flowing and we've got into a flow of the game. We kind of have an idea of what their plan is defensively, and we expect to come out and start fast and move the ball down the field and be explosive in that second half. We really talk about getting that done, and we actually did that, especially in the third quarter. Had a big third quarter right there.
Yeah, and we'll take a break right now. Coach is already ready to go, man, because the third quarter was huge. Probably the biggest reason why we ended up coming out with the win in this ball game. When we come back, we'll talk about that third quarter and going into the rest of the ball game. You're watching Inside the Bears Den with head coach Sam Shade. Back here inside the Bears Den with head coach Sam Shade. And, Coach, it's 14-7 at the half. We got a touchdown pass to Jalen Peterson right before the break. Jalen had 4 catches, including the 20-yard touchdown pass. And he's a guy who really does a lot of great things for this program, even though his name doesn't get called a ton. Talk a little bit about Jalen and his effort.
Very unselfish player, just very unselfish, great in the classroom. I can't say enough about him. He's one of our leaders on special teams. Obviously he's an all-conference kick returner, does great for us in that phase, but also in the coverage phase on punts, on kickoffs. Just one of those unsung heroes of our team, just because of all the production that we get out of him, outside of the receiver position.
So it's 14-7. Like I said, you get the ball coming out in the second half, and it pays off right away, and you're able to move the ball down the field, a lot of it on the legs of your running backs, and you ran 4 or 5 different guys out there. Just talk about having that option, those options too. It really didn't matter who you put out there, everybody was getting big yardage.
Well, you said it. That's exactly how I feel. I feel like our running back room is a special room now, and all those guys are different. All their styles are different. So some people say, well, which guys at the top, which one you like best? I'm like, well, it depends on what plays we're running. It depends on what time in the game. Obviously short yardage, we're trying to get those tough yards. We want some of those bigger backs in there like Leatherwood and, guys like Rod Thomas and Gennaro Scott. He's been out, but, Gennaro, pound for pound, he's one of the stronger guys on our team, and he hadn't been with us. He's got a little bit of what each of them has. He's kind of got a little bit of what all of our guys had. And then we even got a chance to play Derek Davis, local guy from right here, Pleasant Grove High School, and he got out there and he's kind of lightning in a bottle. I mean, his feet are moving all over the place, and it's an exciting group, and I think Coach Stanley Connor does a great job with that group. And the improvement with that group from the spring to now is just really impressive, just to see the improvement that they've made, each guy.
Well, Miles had 222 yards on the ground. 27 of them came on a touchdown run from Javante Leatherwood that put you up 21-7. And it was a long halftime, a little longer than
very long.
Yeah, well, yeah, the TV people were looking like, hey, you all need to hurry this one up. But you have the long halftime, you come right down, you score again, get the big touchdown run from Leatherwood, and now you're back out on defense, and your guys just making plays. Talk a bit about the pass rush that set that up, and then the ability to get that strip and turn the field.
Well, that pass rush, like I said, there are a lot of guys, but actually this ball game, one of our young guys, Keith Green, I thought he had a really good game for us up front. Like I said, he's got one speed that's full. He had 2 sacks. He had 2 tackles for losses. He obviously forced the fumble, the strip and all that type of stuff. Quarterback hurries. Just really had a really good game for a true freshman D lineman.
And he came in, he knocked that ball loose. It was Jeremiah Hudson-Davis, man, right on the spot, picks it up, and looked like he was going to return it, and he got chased down by the quarterback. How much grief did your guys give him on the sideline for getting chased down from behind like that?
I don't know if they really got on him. I think everybody was just excited that we were able to flip the field like that, because they had a little momentum on that drive. But Jeremiah did I thought 61. I think it was like a 61-yard return or something like that, which that flipped the field, and we ended up scoring. Right after that.
On the very next play, it's Khalil Anglin to Frank Pierre and finds him for 14 yards and a touchdown. Now a game that was supposed to be super competitive and was close at halftime. Now you've got a 3-touchdown lead. You've scored 28 consecutive points, and the air is starting to come out of that place.
Right. I feel like it was, but like I said, we actually got up 35-7, and those guys, to their credit, they kept fighting. They never gave up. That coaching staff never stopped coaching. I've been on that other side, and I've been on it where the team kept fighting, and I've been on it where the team just mailed it in and just said, hey, we can't come back. But credit to them and much respect to that group for the way they fought back.
Well, like Coach said, the next play from scrimmage, you get a pass. David Wright trying to get his team back in the ball game. It's 28-7. And the surprise of all surprises, Keydarius Buster Griffin, we call him Buster here. Buster steps in front of one, and he takes it back, a 32-yard pick six, makes the score 35-7. The pick six by itself, your defensive backs make plays. The momentum had clearly shifted into Miles' favor. But the bigger deal about this is that if you look on the roster, if you look on the depth chart, there's nothing that says defensive back or cornerback for Buster Griffin. He's listed as a wide receiver. Talk about why he was even out there.
Well, we've talked about we've dealt with some injuries this season. We really have, and we had a couple cornerbacks that were down, didn't make the trip over to Atlanta because of injuries and whatnot. And so actually, Buster's a guy that we had a similar situation last season, and we worked him at cornerback in practice. He played both ways in high school, played defensive back and receiver. So, we knew he could do it, but he just didn't have the reps. And so this week, going into the game, Coach Langham and I talked, and he said, hey, Coach, I think I'm going to have to grab Buster, this week if this happens in the game, meaning if we lose this guy or that guy. And we had a couple guys cramp up and got banged up. And next thing I know, Coach Langham had grabbed Buster, and by the time I knew, he was on the field playing.
And not very long after that was in the end zone. You also have Josh Ruff,
yes,
who is playing both ways for you. He's listed as the wide receiver. We've changed it now. He's listed as a cornerback as well. He got out there. He had 4 tackles on the game as well, did a good job of keeping his guy in front of him, and he never really got beat up too bad out there. That's got to make you feel good because you're out here not just getting guys who are specialists at wherever they are, but they're athletes and they're able to make plays wherever you need them.
Well, and that's the thing. The thing about Ruff, we made that move with Ruff a few weeks ago, actually, in the season, And he's been working at both. He's been working at receiver and DB, but both of those guys are terrific athletes, and that's what you want in defensive backs. You want to take athletes, and Coach Langham, my hat goes off to him. He's done a great job developing those two guys in a very short period of time and getting them ready to play. And credit to them just having the competitiveness in them to be able to go over on that side and without a lot of reps, no spring practice, no training camp reps, and when we need them during the season, they step up and get it done. And that's a great example for our team of whatever you can do, whatever it takes, find a way. And our coaching staff is doing that, and our players are doing it.
Miles scores 3 touchdowns in less than 6 minutes, and a game that was really close just gets away. And we've been talking about it here. Clark Atlanta was able to come back. They continue to throw the football. Again, when you've got David Wright, when you've got that kind of offense, you really can't let up on those guys. And they, to their credit, as you said, they were able to kind of get down the field and get into the end zone a couple more times.
Right, and not just David Wright. They've got some special athletes on that team, particularly on that offensive side. That entire receiving group, all those guys are athletic. They can run. They've got running backs that can, do things with the football. They present a big challenge to any defense, not just in our conference, but I think, throughout the Southeast. Like I said, Coach Keaton does a really good job of putting those guys in position to make plays. And if you give them a little bit of space, they're going to take advantage of it.
Well, the numbers, as you looked at them at the end of the ball game, would otherwise say that Clark Atlanta had an outstanding performance. They had more than nearly 500 yards of total offense. David Wright himself threw for 308 yards. He threw 3 touchdowns. He had 2 picks. He also ran for another touchdown. So he had an outstanding game as far as the numbers go. But when you look at those pass numbers, they can be a little deceiving. While he finished with 308, 210 of those yards came after Miles was up 4 touchdowns. So your guys really got after him and got after that offense and was able to kind of, really stifle that to where you were able to get the big lead and didn't have to be near as worried about it.
Right. Obviously, when you've got a big lead, you tend to play a little bit different defensively, particularly in the secondary, and especially because we had some guys in there that hadn't really played a whole lot of defense for us. Matter of fact, not just at the corner position, inside at the safety position. We ended up playing a couple guys that hadn't played a lot of reps. So you tend to be a little bit more vanilla, when you're in situations like that, just making sure that those guys know what to do on each and every play. And they did a good job of taking advantage of, some of that. Some people would say maybe we kind of got a little soft in our coverage at that time. But when you're up, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to finish the game.
And finish the game, this team did. It's not like you got to 35 and stopped. You found your way into the end zone a couple more times. Javante Leatherwood with another touchdown run. He's got 7 touchdown carries, number 3 in the conference, first on the team. You also got a touchdown run there from Ed Osley, and he came in and had some big runs. Again, 222 yards. Everybody got some. I know you had to be happy to see him be able to get in the end zone and perform the way he did.
Absolutely. Ed, another local guy from Clay Chalkwell High School, had a really good high school career over there. Actually, won a state championship, was MVP of the 6A state championship game. And Ed's a guy he's getting better each and every week. Especially you go back and, watch him in spring. He's really come a long way from that springtime with us, and plays a lot of special teams for us. Him and Leatherwood, all of our guys. We play a lot of guys that are big-time contributors for us on special teams, and Ed's done a good job this year. Leatherwood's done a great job on teams. Rod Thomas has done a really good job for us on special teams. Obviously, we talked about Jalen Peterson, and Ruff's done a really good job for us. So it's a team effort. I think all of our guys have bought in, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get the win.
49-28 was the final. Miles wins its 5th in a row. This has not happened for this team since 2015.
Oh,
it's
wow.
been that long since Miles has won 5 games in a row. They were all conference games as well. So the big things happening here with the Golden Bears. And when we come back, we'll look at what's next what's on the agenda, and we'll talk about some other things going on here and the Golden Bears athletic universe. You're watching Inside the Bears Den with Coach Sam Shade. Back inside the Bears Den, more Coach Sam Shade, and 49-28, you get the win. You're now 5-2 overall, 5-0 in conference play, and you've got a couple more games, but you are in the driver's seat as far as a possible appearance in the SIAC championship game. Is that something this team talks about, or do you try not to get too far ahead?
Well, we talk about just controlling the controllables. Control the things we can control. That's really it. And obviously, we all realize that we pretty much control our football destiny. Depending on if we want to keep playing, and after the Tuskegee game, we've got to keep winning. And I think our guys do understand that part of it. But we do understand we've got to win each day in practice. It starts with practice for us. It starts with our preparation. Our players and coaches have done a good job in the preparation part of it, because I tell them all the time, as you practice, you're going to play. And they understand that. They understand if we don't practice well, we're not going to play well. And we've done a really good job. Even our scout team guys, the guys that, don't get an opportunity to play, a lot of our young freshmen that are scholarship kids that might not be quite ready to play, they've done a great job of giving us great looks offensively and defensively, and so a lot of times we get to the games, we feel like we've really gotten a really good look at what we're going to see in the ball game, and that helps us out tremendously.
Well, you got Benedict up next, the two-time defending SIAC champions, but it's a little different. They got a new coaching staff. A lot of those guys, they moved on, and they did their job, but now it's a new regime there, and you're going into Columbia, South Carolina. It's their homecoming. You got 3 homecomings in 4 weeks. And most of the time, people are like, don't pick us to be your homecoming opponent. We got something for you. Do y'all really use that as motivation, the homecoming part of it?
Well, I really, in my experience, I hadn't had a lot of experience with playing somebody for their homecoming, but I'm getting it now. I'm getting it now, but we use it a little bit. We use it a little bit. Obviously, you look at it and say, well, man, maybe they probably could have picked somebody else, but they picked us. They chose us. So, when people choose you, sometimes you feel like you got to give them what they asked for.
And, this series actually has been pretty good. Last year, it came down to the end. It was a very close ball game. We talked about the last time we went to Johnson Stadium, and while the score didn't show that we were particularly close, Benedict wasn't really able to move the football against this team defensively. And the previous trip there, Miles had to win late in the ball game. So these teams are pretty closely matched generally when they play against each other. So, when you've got that kind of team, how do you get your guys to say, hey, look, this is the task that we have in front of us. Let's not look past these guys.
No. I mean, you can't look past a team that's won the conference 2 years in a row. We went up there 2 years ago. It's a great atmosphere up there. Their fans get in there, and they really get into the ball game. So our guys understand. We watched the film on them today, and they've got a lot of talent on that team. Their quarterback, he's a guy that can throw the ball. He's really elusive. He's got some young receivers they've been throwing the ball to, and so it's going to be another big test for us, another road SIAC test, another homecoming where they've got everything to play for. They're 3-4, trying to get to 4-4, get to 500, and so we'll have our work cut out for us, and we know that. We know we got to have a great week of practice, and we got to go up there with the right mindset that they're going to make. They're going to make some plays. They're at home. They're going to be pumped up, and we got to understand that we've got to play 4 quarters of football, and finished strong in the end.
And we talk about finishing with a championship close. You know, you still got a little work to do for it. How is having that carried in front of your guys kind of motivate as you go week to week? Because, you know, the stakes are only getting higher each week you go out there.
Well, I think our guys are just having fun playing, playing ball with each other. I think we're really enjoying the journey, all of it. Last week, I thought we had some really great practices. There was just a lot of excitement in practice, a lot of juice, a lot of energy. And you can see it in our guys. They really enjoy playing for each other. They've got each other's back, and they don't want to let each other down. I don't think it's about, we can't lose. Our guys aren't getting tense and stiffed up and all that. They're having fun playing ball because – we talk about a few things. One of the things we talk about is start fast and physical. Then in the middle of any ball game, at some point you're going to face some adversity. So we talk about focusing through the adversity. And then in the end, we talk about finishing. We talk about we've got to finish in the second half. We got to finish the fourth quarter. And the last thing we say is, above all, have fun. Have fun doing all of that. Have fun with your teammates. And we've been doing that. And it's really great to see our guys do that because they put a lot of work in. We started this thing January 8th, Monday, January 8th. That was our first team meeting. Off-season workouts, morning workouts in the cold in February, late January. So they've really put a lot in. They paid the price to be in the situation that we're in now, and they're just really enjoying it.
Well, it's fun when you win 5 in a row when you're sitting on top of the conference, and Miles is going to look to extend that streak on Saturday when they take on Benedict. It's a 2 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central kick. So make sure you're in the place. If you can't get there, go to milesgoldenbears.com. We'll let you know how you can keep up with the Golden Bears as they continue their trek towards a possible SIAC championship. Let's clean up a couple of things here. First and foremost, got another Player of the Week here for the Golden Bears for the second time this season. Keith Green is going to be the newcomer of the week in the SIAC. We talked about it. He had 4 tackles, 2 sacks, forced fumble. Man, he even got his hands up and swiped another ball, and he was just kind of everywhere. And you've been saying he's coming. This guy's got a terrific motor, and he's showing it, and he's getting the recognition for it.
Absolutely. Very proud of Keith, very proud.
Right, and so great job by Keith Green. As we look into some of our other sports going on here around Miles, the volleyball team, they've got 4 victories on the season. They're going to look to add to that this week as they participate in the SIAC Western Cluster in Jackson up at Lane. Got a couple matches up there looking to keep the momentum going for the Lady Bears. So, again, you can go to milesgoldenbears.com to keep up with all of the action. The golf team is going to finish its fall schedule in the Bridgestone HBCU Championship. That'll take place next week. So we're looking for a great finish. They played last week in the SAAS Championship, finished second out of 5 teams. The results have been coming for the Golden Bears golf program as they are building off of an SIAC championship last year, looking to go back-to-back. And then also our basketball programs. Basketball season is upcoming. They're already starting to work out. First home game for the men's team is on November 12th. They will play at home against Talladega. But before we even get to the schedule, the SIAC put out the preseason prognostications for the year, and Miles cleaned up. Both the men and the women were picked to win the Western Division. Not a surprise. They both won it last year. We know the men came up a little short in the championship game. The women won it all. So a lot of guys back on both of those teams, and those people were they were able to be recognized as preseason players of the year. On the women's side, Amaya Harris, who was an All-American last year. She is the SIAC preseason player of the year. She's a first-team all-conference preseason selection. Fleia Greer, who was the MVP of the championship tournament last year, she is a second-team preseason selection in the SIAC. And then Madison Lee, she was chosen as the preseason defensive player of the year. So congratulations to all of those young ladies. And then on the men's side, preseason player of the year, first team selection, Alvin Miles. He was all conference last year. He was also on the all tournament team, and on the second team on the preseason, Corey Trotter, redshirt junior, plays the forward position. Man, he can score from up underneath the basket and can shoot it as well. Man, we've got a bevy of talent here with the Golden Bears and Ladies Bears basketball programs. Go to milesgoldenbears.com and you'll be able to see it all. Man, we've got a lot of things going on around here.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. A lot of talent also.
Indeed. All over all of our programs, we've got it, and you can come enjoy it with us. We thank you for joining us here inside the Bears Den, and we look forward to seeing you in South Carolina as the Golden Bears take on Benedict, up in Tennessee where the Lady Bears are in action, and wherever else you can find us. Thanks for joining us. I'm A.A. Moore, Coach Sam Shade. We'll see you next week.